Last week, the government of India decided to write to the UPSC to halt the process of lateral induction of 45 joint secretaries and deputy secretaries and directors. In fact, the breakup is 10 joint secretaries and 35 officers in the rank of directors and deputy secretaries. Now, this caused quite a lot of furor amongst the editorial writers, amongst the superannuated civil servants, amongst political commentators and thought leaders. Now, serving officers, by their very nature, do not speak on these issues. So we've had a former cabinet secretary, K.M. Chandrasekhar, speaking about it. We've had the former member of the Finance Commission speaking about it. N.K. Singh spoke about it. We have Arvind Panagaria speak about it. We've had Sudhendra Kulkarni, who was the speechwriter to Atal Bihari Vajpayee, speak about it. We've had the Future of India Foundation's Ruchi Gupta speak about it. And all of them have more or less been critical of the government. They felt that the government should not have backtracked. Once the decision had been taken that we shall have specialist induction into the civil services, the government should not have backtracked. On the other hand, Mr. Deepak Gupta, he said that, look, if lateral induction is done in rare circumstances, once in a while, maybe once in 2 years or 3 years, where the need is very specific, it is fine. When you are inducting 180 people every year in the IAS, then basically you're trying to get about 1/4 of your strength in the civil services from the lateral entrance, and that he felt is a vitiation of the process of selection of civil servants, which is well established and well accepted process of the UPSC. Mr. Dilip Mandal, who also writes for ThePrint, he said that, look, let's take a more nuanced view of it. Why should we call it an efficiency versus social inclusion issue? It has all kinds of implications. It also has the implication that perhaps all those who are currently in the IAS are not efficient, and all those who will be inducted will come from categories which require some kind of an inclusion. So he said that in all circumstances, this binary equation was something which is not acceptable, and I would completely agree with Mr. Mandal. Again, when it comes to the argument that the government needs professionals, we must understand that the Prime Minister has a lot of faith in professionals. In fact, his cabinet is full of professionals. Let's look at the big four. Nirmala Sitharaman, our finance minister, our external affairs minister, Mr. Jaishankar. We have Ashwini Vaishnav. We have Hardeep Singh Puri. So the cabinet has a lot of talent, which is not typically political, quote unquote political. Again, when you look at the NSA, when you look at the NITI Aayog, when you look at the PMO, you look at the National Security Advisory Board, there is a preponderance of officers from the civil services. So to say that the Prime Minister or the government has less faith in its civil servants, that does not hold much ice. Therefore, what is the issue? The issue is that there is and there was a there was a shortage at the level of joint secretaries. But our questions are, why did this shortage happen? Is this shortage sudden, or is this shortage a part of a larger process? But let's get back. Let's get back to the very beginning, as they say. And those of us who've been NCC cadets would recall that in every firing range, it's written in very bold letters on the very masthead of the firing range. It says, "Ek goli, ek dushman, ek nishan." That is, have one aim, one target, one bullet, one enemy. Don't try to kill too many birds with one stone. So whenever any institution, whenever any organization tries to do too many things with the same objective, when we think that one thing is a silver bullet for all our problems, then it really becomes an issue. But let me go back into the genesis of the problem, and I am well aware of this because I was a deputy director at the same academy where I later became the director, 1995 to 2002. And that was the time when the induction of the IAS, the IPS, and the Forest Service was drastically cut down. In the case of the IAS, we came down from 170 to 180 every year to 55 every year. The reduction in the IPS was 36. I mean, we had only 36 officers in the IPS and 24 in the Indian Forest Service, and this was for a period of 5 years, from 1996 to about 2001. The reason for this was that in 1979, when the Charan Singh government took a decision that the induction into the All India services will be 33.3%, up from 20%, which was the norm. The induction from these services, that is from the feeder cadres, did not take place. The pace was too slow. And therefore, what happened was that in the total strength of these services, the number of state civil services was not adequately represented. And naturally, they went to courts. The first to go to court was the Karnataka State Forest Association, Forest Service Association, and then it was followed by the Punjab, Tamil Nadu, and UP State Civil Service Association, and they made 2 points. The first point was very simple. They said that look, the government has to induct 33.3% of our officers, that is the state civil service officers, into the IS. But more importantly, they said that look, when it comes to the calculation of number of available vacancies, the three ministries, which are the nodal ministries or the cadre controlling authorities for the IS, the IPS, and the Forest Service, they were looking only at the cadre posts of the IS or the IPS and the IFS, not at the cadre strength. Now, those of my friends who are not members of the civil services will get totally confused about what is this cadre post and cadred posts and the strength of the cadre. To cut a long story short, there are some posts which can be held only by a member of the IS. For example, a district magistrate's post can only be held by a member of the IS. But there are many posts in the IS which can be held, many posts which IS officers hold, which could be held by the IS and can also be held by officers who are not from the IS. For example, SDMs and ADMs are from the State Civil Service as well as from the IS. Managing directors of various corporations, heads of state federations, directorates, many of them could be headed by IS, could be headed by State Civil Service, could be headed by technical people, could be headed by engineers, by doctors, and so many other people. So when we were looking at, that is when the three cadre controlling authorities were looking at the strength of the IS, they were looking at the posts held by the cadre rather than the strength of the cadre, and the courts agreed that the intent of the government was that 33.3% posts should be held by them, and therefore the court said that look, stop recruitment to these three services till that promotion quota backlog has been cleared. So as a compromise, it was decided that look, the induction into these three services at the direct entry stage would be reduced to 1/3, so that the balance can be set right within a period of 5 to 6 years, and that is what happened by 2001, 2002. But this impact came to the fore by 2015-16, and that was the time when when Mr. Narendra Modi's government decided to have lateral induction into the civil services. Now, whether the lateral induction was the best way to go about it is something that is a big debate, has been going on for quite some time. But the fact is that there were two other methods. We could have fast-tracked the promotions to the IS. We could have got a lot of induction from the state civil services to do it, but that did not happen. But in any case, now that the decision has been taken that the process has been halted, let's ask ourselves two more questions. The first is that should the lateral induction or the induction of domain experts happen in the ministries, which have a very clear structure of secretary, additional secretary, joint secretary, or should it take place in organizations like the NITI Aayog, which are far more flexible, which are far more nimble? Because when it comes to expertise, when it comes to policy role, when it comes to determining NITI, then it is best that experts are inducted at appropriate levels to give the advice, to give technical advice or suggestions, or do whatever necessary research is required for the members of the planning, for the members of the NITI Aayog, because they are specialist members and they are people who have the best knowledge in the subject. But there is a flexibility which the NITI Aayog has. The NITI Aayog has distinguished fellows, it has junior fellows, it has professionals. So NITI Aayog has the flexibility to bring in this talent from outside. That is one point. And the second and the more crucial point is that when we know that certain positions in certain ministries would require specialization, then why are we not following the procedure or following the process of training the civil servants in their mid-career training program to take on these responsibilities? But this is precisely why the Mission Karam Yogi was announced by the Prime Minister on 20th August 2020. The PM was very clear that let me set up a capacity building commission. The name itself says, let's build capacities. The whole logic of the capacity building commission and Mission Karam Yogi was that let officers transit from rules to roles. Let them start looking at what are the new roles that they have to perform. Whether that new role is a regulatory role in civil aviation, whether that new role is looking at how marginal farmers have to look at climate resilient agriculture, whether the new role is about integrating cooperatives and farmer producer organizations with large food processing industries, whether it is about whether it's about mission Gati Shakti, whether it is about getting logistics in shape. All these specialist roles are there, but these specialist roles require people who have deep expertise in governance, people who have deep expertise in working with state governments, because the whole logic of the All India services is that these services have to work both in the center and in the state. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that deputation is a wrong term. An IAS officer or an IPS officer is expected to work both in the center and the state. And it is his right, it is his duty, it is his responsibility. In fact, let me correct myself. It is her right, her duty, her responsibility to work both in the center and state. And unless we have a clear and an open dialogue on what is expected of the civil services, what is expected of the NITI Aayog, what is expected of the National Security Secretariat, what is expected of the PMO, what is expected, how do we consult various stakeholders, we will not be able to get to that accelerated pace with which we want to make a Viksit Bharat. Thank you.